essentially is very not hindered by some of the legacy challenges we have with the desktop experience. So he can actually move ahead a little bit faster than everybody else can due to that advantage. In addition to that, we actually, in addition to making things like the mobile product and the things you saw in the keynote this morning, we actually work with the entire ServiceNow organization, and we are, through sort of an osmosis and loaning out designers across the company, improving design across the entire product line. So it's not going to be just limited to what you've seen in the keynote today. Much of our design philosophy, our style guide, some of the UX controls we're developing are going to be leveraged across the entire platform. And again, that's because, like, let's say, great example, let's say today, if you're trying to make an order for something in the catalog, right? You ordered something through the hardware catalog, and then 5 or 10 minutes later I showed, hey, I want to make a vacation request. The feedback is the same. At the end of the day, it's somebody requesting work's going to get done, and then somebody else picks up the work and does it. It doesn't matter if I'm an artist, if I'm a TV repairman, if I'm a software developer. There's a job, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to let somebody know I've done it. So I'm going to skip through the next slide because it doesn't really matter. This is just our wacky work environment, which is very open and modern, and this is about the process we have in place to make sure that the design is something that's going to be pleasing to the end user. And another big part of our philosophy is and I always like doing this slide, I came up with this last year. Prez has this philosophy as well. We don't really come up with a lot of new ideas. We oftentimes take ideas. So you notice today with the messaging component, much of what you saw probably seems somewhat familiar to you because most of you have probably used Gmail or Facebook at one point or another, and you go, yeah, this just kind of makes sense. I see the green dot, I add more people to the conversation, I can see the typing. Like, yeah, of course. And it's like, finally, somebody's doing this in the workspace. So we're just basically grabbing whatever we can find that's already out there that works and combining the best ideas to come up with a new idea. But this kind of thinking has been going on since the dawn of time. And the example I like to use here is sticks and rocks. Very basic technology stacks. In fact, if you get enough of them, you can have stacks of each, literally. But anyhow, people have been using this stuff forever, but somebody came along and said, let's take these two technologies and let's combine them. And when you combine two powerful existing technologies, you can oftentimes end up with something even more powerful. So what we did was, we said, that's a great analogy here. You can make something that's fun to use, like a seesaw. You can hunt for food. You can go and attack somebody and take over the castle. You can get somewhere over the ocean or somewhere else. This is all because somebody decided to take two technologies and combine them into a lever and then just reappropriate that technology to somebody else's needs. And finally, you can even open up a beer and have a cool one. So this is just cool stuff. It's really just a lever. And we have that same philosophy here now. We say we want to have a very intuitive kind of design and be able to provide the ability for people to work on a mobile device and collaborate with other people in their work teams and get to all their information on the cloud. And when we do that, we essentially create this sort of like productivity lever. If I don't have to go into a record and type in all this stuff just to get a simple yes or no answer, and instead I can just ask the question, and to me it's a very natural language experience, I'm much more likely to use the process that's in place. So we couldn't really go into it at the keynote, but essentially, when somebody's making a comment inside one of these records, they may not even know that they're actually making a comment inside a record. As far as they're concerned, they're just asking a question. When is my printer going to be fixed? Now the person on the other side, the person in IT, can, at their discretion, work with that information from the perspective of it being the record. But they can also say, I like that chatty interface, just like when I'm at home on Facebook. And they can do a lot of their work inside that particular style of communication. But all the information will be stored inside that record format. So if you need to do auditing later, or talk to somebody who really likes to look at all the possible fields that are attached to a record, they can get in and take a look at it. And so the mobile product is such a huge part of getting the ServiceNow experience, out of the IT area and out into the wild, because it encourages you to communicate in a much more natural fashion, just like you do most of the time throughout your day. I mean, if we were to have some kind of a survey to figure out, when you're using a computing device, how do you communicate with others? I'd say the massive majority of your time is spent texting, whether it's Facebook or SMS or whatever it is. It's not forms, right? Because that's not fun, and it's laborious. So the other piece that we've been working a lot on is this visual task boards piece. So for those of you that aren't familiar, it's essentially this Kanban board philosophy. And that's when you take a set of things you have to do and you move through a process in a very visual way. This has been around for a long time. It was made popular by Toyota about 50, 60 years ago. And we brought it into the workplace. We showed it off today. Basically, this is the way people really work, right? If you go to the supermarket, you don't see people with spreadsheets usually. You see them with a couple sticky notes, get the milk, and salt, toilet paper, and they're just thrown away as they go. It's the same idea. And this is the kind of interface in the desktop that a lot of people that don't consider themselves to be like techie, they get it, right? Because all they have to do to change a record is just move a card. Change a record sounds kind of terrifying. All you gotta do is move this card and you're done. I get that. I move cards every day. They're on my desk. Change a record like LP. It's like kind of freaky for people that are not on the technical side of the equation. So let's fade that away. And so that's one piece. And of course, the other piece is this collaboration. So back in the day, a long time ago, when people wanted to collaborate, they'd all get in a room like this. And this was collaboration. And then the internet came along. And this allowed us to collaborate with people all over the world. And I started working in the mid-90s, and so the internet was just sort of happening. And, the internet, the World Wide Web. And you send emails, and you work with somebody in some other country, and then it would say we've got to fix some kind of service outage. And then everyone says, gosh, it's taking too long to communicate with people inside email and inside the system. I'll just text. And so all the problem solving, all the discussion, all the solution data is being resolved inside a couple of cell phones somewhere. And at the end of the day, once the problem is solved, all you see is, P1 outage, and then the next day, fixed, closed. And there's no information in there, and then later on somebody comes back and says, oh, it's happened again, and we go back to that record and say, crap, there's nothing in there. Well, yeah, everyone did their work in this other system. So that's the problem that we've set out to solve with the Connect technology that we introduced. Because you can do your SMS messaging inside the system now. It's been a case, in the not too recent past where these concepts were totally separate. Email, instant messaging, record keeping, and depending on the type of job you had and the way your mind was formed as a child, you preferred one type of communication path or the other. And sometimes certain people would not really have an opportunity to communicate because they had different ways of communicating. But lately, right, if you take a look at Gmail and Facebook, what's the difference between an email and an instant message? There's really not much difference at all. It just depends if you're online or not when the person sends you the information. If you're online, hey, it's an instant message. If you're away from Facebook, oh, it's kind of email. Same thing with Gmail. You can go look at all your Gmail chats you've ever had, and they're going to be in there as emails under the chat area. But they're basically emails. And what's happening as of today, literally today, we're combining this black area, this white area, and this purple area, and it's becoming like a purple haze, like this picture. And so the blurring distinction between these areas is becoming less and less distinct, right? Because now the record can store the chat, and you can get into the record and add to the record just by chatting. There's really no differentiation. And so we're just breaking down the barriers that traditionally have caused a lot of problems, at least in my experience, between the more traditional kind of IT role and then people that are in the far more creative side. The farther and farther you get away from an engineering degree, the harder and harder it is to get those people to work inside the IT kind of process confines. But if all they're doing is sending messages, that's what they were doing anyways. So the trick is to provide a welcoming kind of interface for those folks, which is what we've been working on lately, so that they're enticed to just do it inside the system. People generally are kind of like water. They'll take the path of least resistance. If you make the ServiceNow mobile product enticing enough and pleasant enough to use and intuitive enough so it just kind of reminds them of anything else they're using, like Snapchat or WhatsApp or Facebook, they'll just say, yeah, okay, fine, it's not terrible. Okay, it seems to work, and they'll just use it. And lastly, there's that concept of presence. And I don't know how many of you were there, but basically, we can know not only where you are, but kind of what you're doing. So you can let us know, hey, I'm at this location, but I can also say I'm typing or I'm editing this field while I'm working inside a record. I mean, when I first started working, I worked at a startup one time where we had some kind of just janky defect tracking system, and if two people tried to update one record at the same time, you literally had to go find the DBA and you could rebuild the database. It was like really bad. And then within a year or two from then, it just became, if you did that, you have to reload the screen, and then you call the person up, I'm editing it, just hold on, let me just finish, stop, I'll call you right back when I'm done. And you do it, right, and you save it, and you call, okay, now you can edit it, And so now we're getting to the point where those sorts of things are just it's a thing of the past, right? And if you use Google Docs, it's already happened. So what we want to do is we want to make it so that people, when they're coming to work, they don't feel like they're dealing with this kind of technological resistance, right? Because everything in their personal life now is so easy to do in technology, and technology in the workplace is behind. It's kind of flipped. Back when I was a kid, computers at work that my dad had were like magical, right? And nowadays, it's like computers at work are not good, and your personal software is very good. So we have to kind of level that bar out again. That's the challenge. And then lastly, there's that portal we worked with. So the portal, again, it's responsive. It has the capability to work with presence. It has the ability to allow you to collaborate in real time. And we see this, at least for the desktop, for the majority of your users, this is a much more intuitive interface than what they've had in the past. And we're just getting started with this, but the goal here is to kind of provide the best parts of an Amazon experience, an eBay experience, and a solution and support help desk experience in one, with very familiar kinds of user journeys that people have become accustomed to over the last 5 or 6 years. So that's kind of how we're seeing it. We're seeing it as, you don't tell people we need you to go file a ticket. We see it as, hey, if you have a problem, just send me an SMS and I'll solve it for you. But send it through the ServiceNow product, and you don't have to go into the platform anymore, right? Go through that whole fun process. You can just go to our website, go to the service portal, and just ask a question. And then everything just starts being tracked in there. If you've got the mobile product, we've got notifications. As soon as you were to ask for help, that notification would go to your mobile device. It's not any different than making an order on Open Table or whatever, and then you get reservations and it comes up. This is the goal. This is what we're driving towards. And I couldn't have this conversation. I had to ask for Wednesday because I felt like if I were to talk about this on Monday or Tuesday, you all would have thought I was just making up a bunch of just baloney. So the keynote today was really important, or else it just sounds like we're just making stuff up. But we're not, because we showed you today, and pretty much worked correctly most of the time. So that's kind of our vision. We want to make the technology just as seamless as the experience that you have in your personal life, and we don't want people to be intimidated. We want them to be almost excited. Hey, this is actually going to get easier than I got this. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. And so with that, I'm open to questions. Jerry's open to questions. We're happy to. We're obviously very excited about this. We're happy to talk with you about anything you'd like to talk about with relation to this. Yes.
You mentioned the Gmail email versus message. I'm wondering if there's a similar thing here where if you have help desk representatives available, then it works like chat, but if not, it goes into a queue. Because we're staffed to answer the phones first, and then work queues second. How would we incorporate the chat back and forth in that scenario? Would we have to change things a lot, or?
So you have a telephone system that you're using first?
Yeah.
So we don't have integration for that right now. It's something that people have asked us about, but at the moment we don't have any kind of telephoning support, but it's something we've discussed. So.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, that's one source of input, is people on the phone.
Oh, okay.
Currently, we've turned off the chat feature, like, you know, chat with the help desk or whatever it is. If there's no one there to respond, and they still send a chat, and it'll create a ticket and so on.
So okay, yes. So the answer is most of the time. So it kind of depends on what you're doing, right? So if you just want to chat, the system can't telepathically know like exactly what you want to do, because you could just be, who knows what you want, right? We don't know yet. If you want to take a vacation, if there's an outage, if you wanted to buy something. So we'll create a certain type of task. It's called a chat task, and it'll sit there. And then what will kind of happen, once somebody picks it up on the other end, it'll then like transmorgify into an incident or a request or whatever it needs to become. Now, if somebody makes another type of request, for example, order something, it'll automatically come into the system as a request instead. Or if they need to report a defect in the portal, it'll come in as some kind of an incident. So depending on how they go in, the system will auto-sort for them, unless they come in from that kind of like, I just want to talk to somebody. You know, then we got to wait for someone to grab them. And if you noticed earlier today, when we went into the full-blown Connect interface, there's multiple options, and that's not something you'd really see in Facebook, since you're not doing customer support with Facebook. You've got this kind of customer support accordion, and then you've got things that are more of the personal nature. So we see a situation like this. Let's say you're doing customer support, and so are a few of your colleagues, right? But you're also having more informal conversations. So we kind of have them in their own separate buckets in the user interface. Kind of like groups, actually. You have groups in Facebook you're having chats with, and then you've got your individual conversations that kind of separates them. It's that kind of experience, which is yeah, sort of similar to Facebook, which is good. Yes, right here.
I love the chat functionality, and I'd like to use it more, but in our case, we have a lot of times where we get the same question over and over again, or the same type of question. We need like 10 to 15 different elements of data along with it. So if you say like, this didn't happen, okay, well, we need to know the customer's number, the this, the that, and the other. So do you guys have these ideas around how to, instead of asking the same question over and over?
So you're saying, oh,
So they can just say like, hey, I work with health insurance.
Okay.
Claim didn't pay.
Right.
That's great. So we need the claim number, the member number, the this, the that, the provider, and all that. So to do that in chat just seems like a waste of time. Is there a way to just say, please, 10 elements of this type of question?
Well, so one thing we have is which we didn't show there, is we have a capacity for notes. There's a tab for notes and a support kind of construct. So you can go to your notes tab and start dragging in stuff like the hot ticket items. So if you've always got the same question coming in, and someone's not going to use the portal to do kind of their own self-service sort of situation, you'll be able to just grab that block of text, let's say, and say, thanks for your inquiry. Here's what you need to do for us to help you. Yes. I'll work my way right to left, and I'll just keep going back and forth.
You said that it's essentially a task underneath.
Yes.
Put like business roles on it, and stuff like that. Extend it, have it run a workflow, or
Yeah, you probably could. I mean, I don't see why not. It's just a task. So, yeah. Yes.
So, how is ServiceNow thinking about this from a licensing perspective? And are we just going to get this for free like Google and Facebook?
So, that's a great question. I'm a man of many talents, but one of them is in the sales department. But we would, we would like to. I think we believe strongly. I can see Jordan in the back just shaking his head and just don't say anything. We believe that it's something that we want to enable people to use because it's an expectation, right? That this is something that we get in every other platform around. So we'll see, but let's keep our fingers crossed that it's just a core platform feature for the most part. See, look at that, for the most part. What's that mean? Yes. Well, I don't know, but we'll get there. Do you want to do it? Sure.
You see the portal as being extended to like IT work as well, or does it see it as like the interface of the ServiceNow?
I don't think that that's currently a vision. I don't want to speak too much for Fred, who's the visionary here, but I don't think that's the vision. I think you can use it that way. I mean, you've seen a lot of functionality that would support such a thing, but today this really is intended to be an alternative to CMS and an ESS kind of system. So that said, I do think that you're going to see a lot more of this kind of interface functionality start trickling into the resolver side of things.
That's what people want. I mean, we do have this far-flung future vision where, eventually, what you see on mobile will be a very similar experience on the desktop. It's just kind of what happened. Nobody wants to have to relearn how to do the same thing depending on the device they're on. That's a very unpleasant experience to go through, right? Yes, there was a question over here?
Yeah, two questions.
Okay.
One is how you envision Connect integrating with or replacing chat queue and marketing services. And then kind of related to that, for people that are from Microsoft shop, so people on Yammer and
Integration.
SharePoint, how does it integrate with? Do you have to maintain service stats? That's one of the issues.
Okay. So let's tackle the first question first, which I just forgot because I only slept for like 4 hours. Say it one more time. Okay, yes. So the current legacy chat system will kind of atrophy, and this new Connect system will take its place. It's superior in every way that I can at least think of off the top of my head, and that was part of the goal, that we could create something that could just basically blow away the old system where people would willingly run towards us that are current users. And actually, we had several unofficial design partners that worked with us on developing what you saw for the Support Connect experience. Now, with regards to most popularly link integration or any type of integration like that, it's not something we're doing at the moment. It is something we're looking into. We know there's definitely interest in doing it. But I can't give you an ETA on when, but we understand that it's something that people value. So, I might know more in 3 or 4 months on that. We really, even though everything worked pretty much good today, which is great, we still have work we need to do to make sure that it works that great every day for everybody when we release it. So that's the first step. Once we can walk, then we'll start running and trying to connect with Link and Yammer and Jabber and everything like that. So, I'll get back there. I feel guilty because I always pick people that are close to me. That's a weird thing. Yes?
An idea to have the mobile app available for Android?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you asked this question earlier, and we telepathically agreed that will probably happen in somewhere around 6 months from the initial release of the iPhone product. And the reason for that is because there's only like 3 iPhones and there's like 3,000 Android devices. So the amount of testing and just hair pulling is higher on Android. Plus, we'd like to learn what works and what doesn't work on iPhone first, as far as what people enjoy and what they don't enjoy. And then once we get that nailed down, we kind of take an overall mold and just kind of pour Android into it and then go to like, I don't know, something else perhaps. Yes, and then far back.
I put a good amount of work into customizing my CMS. Am I getting any of that work and reusing it to get to this portal, or is that going to also atrophy like the current chat?
I think that the current messaging that I understand is that Service Portal is an alternative to CMS. It is not an upgrade, so the answer would be no. Your CMS customization would not move over to Service Portal.
But there's not necessarily any plans to kill CMS.
No. It's not being killed.
No.
Yeah, too many people have spent too much time and invested too much money in it for that to be a nice thing to do. Chat's different. Everybody's like, please help us. Yes?
So she mentioned the live feed and chat on the desktop side, I guess. What change do you see coming to the chat on the desktop side? How's it going to differ? Like, we don't use it just because it doesn't seem that
So chat is being supplanted by Connect. So Connect is just, there's a lot of different ways to use it. You can use it inside the support type experience. You can use it as an informal type of experience with little tiles, just like you would in Facebook or Google Hangouts /email. You can even use it as part of a BTV board. another analogy, like it's like Mexican food. Like if you order a burrito or a taco or a tostada, the guy's just folding the tortilla in a different shape. He's just throwing all the stuff in it, and that's the shape you like to eat your Mexican food in. I'm from San Diego, so I eat a lot of Mexican food and all about this. I no longer care which shape I get. So as long as it's got chips in it, I'm good. So there really won't be much differentiation. The farther we go along, whether it's a live feed or a chat or a support chat, it's communications going into some kind of a task, and if you're there, it's live. If you're not there, it's there when you show up. Yes?
Just following on the Android question, right? How about Windows?
At the moment, I think we're primarily focusing on Android and iOS. Nothing's out of the question, but Windows isn't currently on the roadmap per se. It's going to take some evaluation to figure it out.
Yeah, but never say never.
I will say, it's worth pointing out that we keep talking about the applications. We're actually revisiting the mobile web version of mobile as well. And that, it's going to be so far and away better than we have today. It's going to be a lot closer to the actual application experience. And so, the Windows devices, we're going to have a really, really compelling alternative to the native applications as well.
Yes?
Is there a concept of privacy behind this?
Yeah, I thought that might be asked because the way that the tracking stuff was presented in the keynote was a little Orwellian. Yes, so the way that thing, we're just total cowboys with the way we present, clearly. But
What privacy specific are you
well, I
talking
think
about?
he's there you go.
All this kind of stuff like that. You've got the demo has, hey, how are you? As well, is that going into a record? Is that now visible by all iPhone users on the platform that are coming in looking at stuff? Oh, these guys spend all their time chatting. I don't know. Is that concept there?
Yes, sure. I think
I want this over here, not there.
Yeah, today they really do kind of all go into a bucket. I think as the feature set evolves and all this, it'll become clearer where the delineation is between, say, private conversations and work-related conversations. I suspect that time Geneva actually goes out the door, we're going to have a much more robust set of privacy controls there, but we don't have anything really to speak to today.
Okay, you're right. You should let me know. But you're talking about the tracking and mobile. You can totally control as the end. Yeah, that's not going to be scary. Not going to be scarier than it already is. You look like the kind of person that needs to be tracked. Any other questions?
Yeah, right here.
Oh, okay.
The collaboration and presence is great. However, in my organization, for example, we have offshore support where they have SLAs for response and resolution.
Yeah.
So, how can we be most effective? In an ideal situation in your keynote, you had the resolver right there replying in a heartbeat, but in an organization like ours, you're not going to have offshore support using those mechanisms to communicate often.
So we do have the notion of kind of showing SLA breaches. That's going to be part of the support framework with Connect. And they can trigger at different points. So it could be initial point of contact. It could be when a certain person picks it up and says, I'm the one to resolve this. And then the SLA can start counting down. So I don't know if that would help you. Maybe it would.
Well, we already do that today. My point was more so on the collaboration piece of things. You can use Link when you're supporting on-site hours. However, everything becomes a work log at the end of the day. It could be instant message, it could be an email, it could be directly on the form itself. But I'm just trying to, envision how this next generation, social media collaboration is really going to work.
So the Connect stuff, like when you're chatting or collaborating with a call, that's part of the work record. Like it's all like completely, it's in there. So as an example, like when Jerry had said in the keynote, like, hey, I'm not feeling well, and I'm like, okay, like here's a document for you to read on how to die correctly. He's like, no, I need actual help. I need real help. I said, oh, this is serious. let's open up an incident. And as soon as I did that, from then on, everything that we're going through together, and with anybody else that I'm, adding to the conversation, all starts becoming part of the work record, either as a work note or a comment. You can actually toggle between the two if you're in the system as a user rather than someone through the portal. So we can actually, let's say you and I are working together, and Jerry's, crying about his tummy or whatever. We can be, proactively helping him, but we can have a side conversation if this guy clearly has psychosomatic issues, and then it'll all show up in the log just like it normally would when you used to have to go in, click, make a comment, save, close it out. Somebody comes in later, all that stuff. No more of that. Yeah, no, it is kind of weird. Like, at least for me, it was kind of weird. I think for all of us to kind of get our heads around how this is really going to work and how it really works. It's just that, at the end of the day, if you really abstract all this stuff, it's just people trading data. If it's a record, if it's like, hey, how's it going? You want to go to lunch? If it's like, I've changed a P1 to a P3, it's the same thing. Like, you give me data, I give you data. And so when you think about it like that, then like, yeah, it's just a transaction. Yes?
For the chat, if it's like if someone doesn't have to move when an incident gets resolved in the chat conversation, how much of that is like reporting? Involving something, what is it, keyword search, or can it fall different?
So that kind of goes back to what Jerry was saying earlier when the question was asked about kind of privacy. So right now, if you were to have someone ask for assistance through the chat system, and we didn't have to open up an incident, it would just not really get tracked like an incident. It would just be a chat task. So that might be something we need to actually add.
So it's almost like a non-escalating that.
Yeah, as far as the system goes, you might have just been asking me for coffee. So we like tag it and say, hey, this is a special type of chat. This came in as a chat for assistance. So that's something we'll probably have to look into. I don't think we've handled that use case yet, but it's a good do that. Jordan is recording everything, so this will get saved. Any other questions? Okay, I mean, we don't need to just hang around just to hang around. So, oh wait, one more. Hold on. Yeah, mobile there.
This is